Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. It's me and Zach. Once again, we are fired up today as we're ranking the Big Ten's top secondaries for 2025, previewing the best players, plus spotlighting some hidden gems who could break out this season and surprise some people. This episode was pre-recorded, so although it does say live, we cannot interact with the live chat, but we do appreciate all of you being here, bringing it every single time we go live. You guys are awesome, and we so appreciate you being here. Please do like, subscribe, comment on YouTube, or leave a 5-star review on this whatever podcast platform you're listening on. It does help the channel grow. And if you dislike the SEC like we do, we just talked about in the last episode, the Big Ten needs some more recognition for teams that go 9-3, possibly even 10-2 to be able to get into the playoffs. Support the Big Ten. Support the Big Ten Huddle. Follow us on Twitter/X, TikTok, and Instagram at the Big Ten Huddle. Thank you for joining us and enjoy this show as we bring in Zack to talk through some Big Ten secondaries with us. Zack, you ready to talk some secondaries?
Yes, I am. I am very excited about this episode. I'm excited to talk about who's going to be the most dynamic back end of the defenses in the Big Ten. So I think it was going to be great.
Number of good safeties this year, Zack. This is going to be a really fun conversation considering the safeties. I don't think there's as many elite corners as there's been in other years, but we do have some good corners and some forgotten corners. I think there's one at Wisconsin some people have forgotten about that they need to remember, and he's going to impact the rankings for sure. So, Zack, you ready to get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Zack has his rankings on the right. I have mine on the left. As you can see, our nice faces above them. Zack, I'm going to let you go through your secondary rankings first, and then I will go through mine. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of my rankings, I was trying to think of who are the impact players and who has continuity. So I think Ohio State has the best defender in the country in Caleb Downs. And you surround him with Igbenosun, Jermaine Matthews. I think there's a couple of options at that second safety spot. I think there are a number of different secondaries you could put at number one. But I do think Caleb Downs is an X factor. And he's the best safety in college football. I think you make the argument he's the best defensive player in all of college football. So I think that affords them to be number one. I have Illinois number two, and I think what they might lack in elite talent. I love the reality that all their starters are coming back. You've got the Scott brothers, you have Bailey in that secondary. I just think they are ball hawks. They know they play together really well, and I just really think that that continuity serves them well as you think about kind of them as a complete unit. Third, I have Penn State. I think Zakee Wheatley, big time safety. AJ Harris, really good player in that secondary. Very excited about Zion Tracy. A lot of really good players in that secondary. They always have a good secondary in State College. Indiana, I feel like we'd get a lot of hate if Indiana were any further down the list than six. I have them at four. But D'Angelo Pons and Amari Farrell, really good players. Really, I think an underrated duo there in that back four. Michigan, listen, I think Michigan has the potential to be not just a top five secondary, but maybe even the top secondary. The big question I have there is Rod Moore healthy? I was just on the Out of the Blue podcast, and they are hopeful, but not entirely sure that Rod Moore is going to be completely healthy. But I think he's the key to that back four. But the rest of those guys, Barry, those boys, they're good. They're really good. We saw them against Jeremiah Smith. They did a good job of locking him up in the Ohio State game. So I like Michigan. Oregon, I have at six. I think Oregon is the continuity is what concerns me. They have the players, right? Dylan Thieneman comes in. They had some transfers, some really highly rated recruits there, but the continuity concerns me. So I have them down at six. I have Wisconsin all the way at seven. I think Zekman at safety, Ricardo Hallman, who I think is one of the most underrated players, had a rougher year last year, but I think this is a secondary to watch out for. As much as we've talked about Wisconsin maybe having a bad year, it's not going to be because of the secondary. I think the secondary is going to be legit. Minnesota, I have at 8, and it might actually be a little too low because of one Coy Parrish. Maybe the second best safety in the conference, only below Caleb Downs. I know you can make an argument for a number of the safeties here. Coy Parrish is the real deal, though. He's really, really good. I've got Iowa at 9. Xavier, I think we're really waiting to see if Xavier Nwampa is going to live up to his potential. I think he has flashed, but I don't think he has been elite. I would love to see him be elite. But I think they have the pieces to be a good secondary. I just don't have them there yet. I have Nebraska at 10. Again, I think they have the makings of a good secondary. Just want to see them continue to grow in that back end of that defense. 11, I have USC. I'm a big Kamari Ramsey fan, and I love what Danton Lynn is doing with that defense, but I'm still concerned about maybe the lack of talent that they've brought into that defense. I think Kamari Ramsey's a great piece. I want to see more out of the corners and whatnot. DJ Harvey got to look out for in that secondary. Washington, Takario Davis, really good player in that secondary. I think they could rise up the ranks. Obviously, you have them a bit higher on your list. UCLA, I think some concerns with the secondary, but I think they have at least some good pieces there. Michigan State, they kind of got gutted a bit, but I still like still like some of the pieces they have there. I think my last 4 are a bit interchangeable, and we see that in both our lists. Northwestern, Rutgers, Maryland, Purdue. I think you could really put them anywhere on this list. Real concerns for those secondaries.
Good stuff, Zach. I appreciate the shout outs for some of the players, Ricardo Hallman, Zack, guys like that. Although I do not have them as high on my list as you do, I do think that they are definitely players who deserve some more credit than maybe what they're getting right now. All right, my breakdown: Ohio State. I don't see any other discussion than Ohio State this season, and you're gonna call me a homer, and that's fine. I get it. Like I'm always gonna get called a homer because it is what it is. But I don't see another secondary in this conference that is going to be as good as Ohio State, especially when you consider they have the best defensive player in the nation in Caleb Downs. You have Dason Igbenosun, who struggled with holding a little bit last year. Not a little bit. He was the most penalized cornerback in the nation. He struggled with holding a lot, but you also saw the games where he was not struggling with holding, and he was doing a very good job of locking wide receivers down. Malik Hartford is a player that I think is going to be starting at the other side of the safety role, and I've already seen people talking about if he plays this season, he's gonna have the opportunity to possibly get drafted. Now, that's not to say he's going to leave after his junior year. They're just saying after his junior year, if he decided to leave, the possibility of being drafted could be there. Jermaine Matthews, I think, often gets forgotten. He was integral last year at times when Denzel Burke was not playing well. Jermaine Matthews came in there, did very well, and then the nickel is probably going to be experienced Lorenzo Styles, or it could be the freshman. We could see a little bit of Devin Sanchez. You could also see Devin Sanchez possibly go to the outside, and maybe somebody like Jermaine Matthews go into the slot instead at that nickelback position. I just think this Ohio State secondary is too good to consider anybody else in the Big Ten a better secondary than them. However, Penn State is going to give them a run for their money. Zakee Wheatley, AJ Harris, all these guys like Elliott Washington, he's a future NFL player as well. They have NFL players in the secondary. I just don't think it's a lock that all of them are NFL players like Ohio State has. Penn State has a very good secondary here. They're known for developing very good secondaries, and I think that's huge for them. Michigan, I'm not going to give them the Jeremiah Smith credit that you did. I felt like there was a lot of holding. I felt like there was a lot of penalties that they did on Jeremiah Smith, and so I'm not giving them the credit for that, but I am going to give them the credit of bringing Rod Moore back. Rod Moore was one of the best safeties in the country. He got hurt last year. It was unfortunate for them. He's going to come back this year. I'm banking on the injury. We're not going to take anything away from him. I'm banking on he's going to come back and be one of the best secondaries in the nation. Again, right now I looked, he's got about a 5th or a 6th round draft grade on him. I think that's because of the injury, and we just saw what happened to Will Johnson. However, I think he's going to outplay that, and he's going to play himself into the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round as a safety. Probably not the 1st round. It's just too hard for safeties to go that high. But the 2nd, third, maybe even fourth round safety instead of that. Jair Hill, very good cornerback. I was surprised by him last year. And then Zeke Berry. I am relying on Zeke Berry to be a good corner for Michigan this season. He's a very good safety for them. He got into coverage, and I think they found out that he could probably play corner for him. So I have Zeke Berry. Call me wrong, maybe, but I have him as being a good corner for them next year. And then Tevis Metcalf is going to be a huge piece at the nickel position if they're going to be able to cover slot receivers against better teams like Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, who are going to have good slot receivers out there. Felt weird saying that about Penn State, but there you go, Penn State fans. And then the last team I have in the top four that I think any of these top four could have an argument for being the I shouldn't say any of these top four. Any of these 2 through 4 have an argument for being the second best secondary in the Big Ten. And Illinois, the experience, I think Matthew Berry is severely underrated. I think Caleb Patterson is much better than people give him credit for. I think Miles Scott has the ability to be drafted next year. Have a little bit of, I wouldn't say concern, but just questions about Torrey Cox Jr. I just want to see what happens there this season. But Xavier Scott's one of the best cornerbacks in the nation. He's gonna be a lockdown nickel for him, and he's gonna be playing a little bit of safety as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing that happen. Minnesota, they're going to be arguably the best safety combo in the nation. I mean, we said it 2 years ago with Tyler Nubin, and who was the other one? I'm forgetting now. But when they had Tyler Nubin, that was one of the best secondary or safety duos in the nation. They're gonna have another one of the best secondary duos in the nation, and Coy Parrish, Kerry Brown. Little concerned about their corners. I'm a little concerned about John Nestor. That's why I didn't have them top 4. However, this safety duo is elite, and they need to get credit for that. Indiana, Amir Farrell. I just don't think Farrell's on the level there of Kerry Brown or Coy Parrish yet, so that's why I had Indiana under Minnesota. However, D'Angelo Pons does make up for a lot of that as well. I think D'Angelo Pons and Coy Parrish are kind of equal, though, and I give the nod of Kerry Brown over Amir Farrell, so that's why I had Minnesota just barely over Indiana. I'm not going to quite have Indiana 4th. I think they're probably 5th or 6th, Zach, but I definitely see the D'Angelo Pons effect there, possibly getting them up to 4th. Dylan Thieneman struggled last year, but he was also not playing his role very well. Dalen Austin, nickel for Oregon next year, who's going to be a good player there. I'm curious about Thoran Johnson. Thoran Johnson from Northwestern went to Oregon, and it doesn't look like he's going to be a starter. It looks like it's going to be Iffy or Jaleel Florence at the cornerback position there. That tells me either one of two things. Either Thoran Johnson was not what they thought he was going to be. I'm wondering if that's the case, or maybe Iffy and Jaleel just outperformed him that well. I'm hoping it's that, but I do have some concerns about the Oregon secondary this year. Young and Dylan Thieneman coming off not a great season for him. Hopefully Oregon utilizes him the right way. I'll go a little bit quicker here and just highlight a couple guys as we get further down. USC, Kamari Ramsey, love him. Great job. I think DJ Harvey is going to be able to translate to the Big Ten. I think that he's going to be a huge piece for them, so that's why I have USC a little bit higher. Washington, Takario Davis, one of the best cornerbacks in the nation last year. He's going to come in and be huge for Washington. And I think Mikel Esteen there, you're talking about how much you love Zack. I think Mikel Esteen is a fantastic tackler, downhill type of guy. He's going to make the tackle, and he does it very well. So I'm not saying that I like him more than Zachman or anything like that. Well, I guess I am because I haven't ranked him above him. But I think he deserves some credit as well. And then Iowa, just sue me. I mean, Xavier Nwampa, he has to show himself this season. Former 5-star. He's getting like 6th round draft grade right now. I mean, sorry, Iowa fans. I know you're feeling good about your secondary because you think that there's some guys here that can do some good stuff, but let's not forget that it was the secondary last year that struggled in tackling that lost you a couple games that we've been highlighting so much. I don't need to keep bringing them up again and again, but Deshaun Lee, TJ Hall, Zach Lutmer, Cohen, and Tringer. We'll see what this Iowa secondary can do. I give them a little bit of a bump because I just do believe in Phil Parker, and I don't think they're going to have the same results as last year. Wisconsin, Ricardo Hallman, it was tough putting him in his secondary this low, but I don't know about the other guys they have with them. Zachman and Hallman, I feel really good about them, but, Trainer, for Quirin, sorry, I'm pronouncing that wrong.
I think it's Farquan.
Farquan, sorry.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with them, but I just don't know. yet, so I have them down there 11th, but they could very possibly be in the top half of the Big Ten come season's end. Michigan State, I think people sleep on Malik Spencer a little bit. I think he's a future NFL player, so that's why I have Michigan State up there a little bit
That's
higher
fair.
than other teams. And Nakai Martinez, I think, is going to be a breakout candidate for Michigan State this season. UCLA, Key Lawrence, fringe NFL player for UCLA. Andre Jordan, I really like Andre Jordan, his kind of intangibles and what he has, his instincts and his athletic ability, his body, stuff like that. I think he could find himself being a good contributor for UCLA this year. Nebraska, I have pretty low. Now, I will say this Nebraska, I think, has the opportunity to be a top half of the Big Ten secondary this season because of John Butler. John Butler was a long-time defensive backs coach in the NFL. If he is able to prove himself more at the Big Ten level, like he did kind of in the NFL, and be a long time guy there, then this DB group will be severely improved. But I don't know it yet, so I just have to see it. But I think it will
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, I think that's fair.
Even though the ranking doesn't really reflect that, I think Nebraska is a team who could be much higher, probably up there to like 10th, ninth, kind of where you have them, Zach. So I see what you're going there. And then I agree with you. Northwestern, feel good about Dylan Tatum because of what he did at Michigan State a few years ago, but there's also the possibility he's not as good there. Fred Davis is an underrated corner for them. Messiah Del Home is a true freshman for Maryland this year that I'm going to be on the lookout for. He had an injury in high school, which had his ranking go lower, but I think he was fantastic in high school. Watched that film, loved him. He's going to have a little bit of heart. I mean, it continues the trend, right? Maryland has really talented players, but they're all young. They're all young. And
Yep.
it's just going to be a hard time for Maryland this season with so many good young players because you're going to know the talent. I don't mean a hard time like it's going to be a bad season. I'm just going to say, like, you know the talent. You're going to be watching these guys and say, I see the talent, but you're also going to see the freshman mistakes. It just is what it is. So, and then Purdue, Rutgers. Purdue, I feel better about this year than they were last year, but that's not saying very much. And then Rutgers, sorry, I don't see much for Rutgers this season.
Yeah,
Sorry, Rutgers fans.
they lost a ton
They
in
did
that
lose a ton.
secondary,
Flip
and
Dixon, number of guys like that. Yeah,
longer beam, like
Walker Bean.
that was one of the more underrated secondaries in the country a year
And we
ago.
saw what happened when they had their backups come in last year. Just so are the
Yeah,
backups ready for this year? We'll see.
yeah.
Rutgers could surprise me. They could be up higher than that, but we'll see. So, Zach, our biggest differences. What is the difference you want to point out?
Yeah, I mean, I think Wisconsin is probably one of the bigger ones. I think Wisconsin, Washington, and Nebraska. We kind of explained Nebraska a little bit. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think the Butler hire, I think, is helpful for me in thinking through Nebraska being a little higher. Um, yeah, maybe I think Wisconsin is probably the one maybe we're a little misaligned on, the most misaligned on, and maybe USC. Like USC, I think.
For me, Wisconsin is, I believe, Ricardo Hallman is a very good cornerback. We just didn't see it last year. We did not see
Yeah,
very good. I mean,
yeah,
he was fine in coverage. Don't get me wrong, but he also wasn't exceptional in coverage. And then he missed a lot of tackles last season. Was not very good on the outside. Felt like teams kind of picked on him a little bit, running the ball to his side. And I felt like he got. No, I won't say that. And then for Forquan and Austin Brown. I mean, they were good last year. They weren't bad or anything, but they were fine.
yeah.
So it's nothing against Wisconsin. I don't know if Zachman and Hallman. If Hallman was coming off 2 seasons ago, probably would have them higher up closer to
Yeah.
where you have them. But after last season, I just need to see that Hallman 2 years ago was not a fluke.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I think if they play up to who they were, like I think there's a lot that like I think it's a phenomenal secondary. It
Hmm.
has the makings of being a phenomenal secondary. But
Hmm.
I appreciate your point too. Like we're not sure the guys around Zekman and Hallman. They've been solid, but they haven't been exceptional. So I think
Right.
those are good questions.
Okay.
Tell me about USC because I have them a little lower. To me it kind of feels like it's Kamari Ramsey and the promise of DJ Harvey and then not much else. But maybe I'm missing something. What do you feel like with USC?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like promise to me of DJ Harvey. I believe DJ Harvey's going to come in and be ready right away. From what I've seen on his tape and what he was last season, I just feel like he's going to be able to compete right away in the Big Ten with some of the wide receivers here. So I have no problem with him as cornerback one for them. And then obviously Kamari Ramsey, I think it was huge bringing them back. Prophet Brown is somebody I think in the nickel that could be pretty good for them this year. Who was the other one I wanted to point out? It was. Where's he at? Nicholson. So I'm banking on an improvement from Nicholson this season. He was a good tackler. He was somebody who was a sure tackler. He just struggled in coverage a little bit. I feel like under second year of D'Anton Lynn, that's going to be improved. He last season, he played well against UCLA. He played well against Maryland, Minnesota. Not well. Yeah, he played well against Minnesota, but there were also just games where he wasn't very good. So I felt like it was inconsistencies. I feel like those consistencies are going to get better, and we're going to see an improvement from
Mm-hmm.
from DeCarlos Nicholson this season.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
So,
fair.
Washington, Zach, I want to ask you about Washington. So I feel like I'm giving Washington a little bit of a bump from what we saw last season. Washington had some really good numbers in their pass defense. I felt like it was a little bit inflated by some of the teams they played. They did play Michigan. They played Iowa last season too,
Mm-hmm.
as well. They played Rutgers when Rutgers was still running the ball very heavy. So I do think that those numbers were inflated a little bit, but at the same time, I also am not going to take away all the credit for Washington and put them down outside the top 10. So you have them down at 12th. Do you not share the same excitement for Easton or Esteen, DeCaro Davis? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I think Davis is a proven commodity for his time at Arizona. Um, Prysock coming in from Arizona as well. I I think probably I feel similar with Washington as I do with Oregon. It's that they have proven pieces, but I'm curious about how they're all going to work together. I think that's probably and I don't think they're as talented as Oregon is. So I think I could see Washington fly up this list. I think it's more I feel unsure about some of the fact that they have guys coming in and they've got to mingle all that together. So
Fair, fair. I see what you're saying there. All right. Best players in the secondaries in the Big Ten. Zach, who are some players you want to highlight as some of the best? We've talked about them a little bit, but maybe give me like a very rough top five, top six players. Not necessarily saying you have to put them in order, but just some
yeah,
of the ones you think are best.
yeah. I mean, I think Caleb Downs is the best. You could make the argument he's the best player in college football, not just
Mm-hmm.
the best defensive player. I think right on his heels is Coy Parrish. If I'm being
Mm-hmm.
completely honest, I think he's just so freaking good,
Mm-hmm.
and he's only going to get better. I I at 3, I have D'Angelo Pons. I know he's undersized, but he's, to talk about the meme, he's got that dog in him. And I just think he's technically sound. He plays above his weight. I just think he's an incredible player. I think Thieneman did not play well a year ago, but I think if he plays up to his potential, I think he is again, we talked about safeties. I think he's a naturally gifted safety. Uh, I think a really good ad for Oregon. Rod Moore, if he's healthy, again, I think he's an excellent, excellent player. I really hope he's healthy. I really hope he's healthy. And then I think a couple corners that I have here: Xavier Scott, Illinois, tremendous player, and then AJ Harris at Penn State as a corner. I think is really good. I feel like you could go on. I actually think corners and safeties, like you said it, like the safety position, I think is an elite position in the Big Ten this year. But there are some very good corners as well. There's some really good secondaries in this league.
Yeah, I feel like the best safeties in the Big Ten returned from last year. Zakai Wheatley even was somebody
Yeah,
that he came in for Kevin Winston, I think was his last name, Junior.
yep,
I mean, I knew what his last name was, it just how to pronounce it. Yeah, Zakai Wheatley, I think he got a lot of time, which really helps him this year. I think Rod Moore is going to be an underrated safety in here. Like I said, Matthew Bailey, I think is somebody that's going to play on Sundays. We just haven't, he hasn't necessarily got the recognition for it yet. But I couldn't agree more. And then Amari Farrell is another one that I
yeah,
think he's going to be a Sunday player. So you look at all the safeties here, Zach. It's very possible out of this class alone, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's possible you have 13 safeties alone drafted out of everybody playing this season. Not all in the next draft because Coy Parrish can't be drafted, but
yeah,
it's possible that out of this year, guys who are starting, 13 of these safeties could be drafted and playing in the NFL. That's
yeah,
insane.
yeah, yeah. That. It speaks to, I think, how the league has evolved a bit too,
Hmm.
because you need great safety play to stop both the run and I think to stop more complex offenses. And so the fact that you have guys like Caleb Downs and Coy Parrish and Rod Moore and Dylan Thieneman, like those are your highlight guys, and they're good at multiple things. Like they're good at tackling, they're good in space. I just think you're talking about an evolved conference, and I think the safety play and the need for great safety play is showcasing that.
Yeah, for sure. And guys that I didn't even mention that could have some uh, potential to get into the draft conversation. They're not there yet, but I think they could get into it. Is Esteen and Zack, man, you and I both mentioned him. And then there's some nickel guys that I didn't even put in there. Xavier Scott and Dalen Austin, who they're going to be kind of safety-ish guys playing in the nickel because they're going to be able to go drop back in coverage and play some of the high safety stuff as well. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking at every single quote-unquote safety in here, you're looking at nearly 20 safeties could be drafted. It's
That's
crazy.
that's insane.
It is. Best safeties in all of college football, no question.
Yep. Yep.
There's not another conference that has as good of safeties here. So just for clarification, some of the guys I was saying there because I do want to say their name and give them the recognition: Caleb Downs, Akee Wheatley, Rod Moore, Matthew Bailey, Coy Parrish, Amari Farrell, Dylan Thieneman, Kamari Ramsey, Mikael Esteen, Xavier Nwamka, Preston Zachman, Malik Spencer, Key Lawrence, Malik Hartford, Kerry Brown, Miles Scott, Xavier Scott, Dalen Austin, Zeke Berry. He might be drafted as a safety, even though he's playing cornerback this season. I think I got the 20 there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then corners that deserve recognition and credit, like I talked about, Davison Igbenosun. I think AJ Harris is probably the highest drafted cornerback here, but I think D'Angelo Pons is the best corner this season. I think Caleb Patterson is going to show himself this season at Illinois. Jair Hill is gaining some traction. Talked about DJ Harvey, Tacario Davis, Ricardo Hallman. I think is going to bounce back this season, but we'll see. Yeah, it's going to be a good season for secondary play in the Big Ten once
Yep.
again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hard
What
to throw on them.
what's fun is that you have really good receiver rooms too
Yeah.
that are going to challenge these. I mean, I think obviously Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, but you've got some underrated receiver rooms too that it's going to be fun. It's going to be these are going to be really fun matchups across the season because you have really good secondaries and really good wide receiver rooms all across the conference.
For sure. For sure. Zach, we've already kind of mentioned some breakout kind of, surprise guys that people need to keep an eye on. We talked about Matthew Bailey, Caleb Patterson at Illinois. We talked about Malik Hartford as one. I mean, it could also be Jalen McClain, too. He's going to possibly
Yeah.
start there as well. Esteen, Zachman, Malik Spencer as well. Anybody else that you want to point out could possibly surprise people this season? Maybe a name they don't know that they need to know.
Well, I mean, we've mentioned DJ Harvey a couple times, and I
Hmm.
think, you know, I think he's probably, at least according to the tape, a proven commodity, but probably not a proven commodity to most people. So I think he's certainly a name to watch out for.
One that I will say that we have not mentioned this entire time, he is going to be a true freshman this season. He reclassified to the 2025 class from the 2026 class, and he will be on campus. I don't think you'll see him right away because I think he's going to need to learn the defense. But it would not surprise me it would not surprise me at all if R.J. Sermons at USC gets some time this
Oh,
season and it makes an impact. They got DJ Harvey, which is good, but they need to solidify that second corner spot there. And RJ Sermons, somebody could get some more time at the end of the season and help solidify that for USC. So pay attention to him.
yeah, good stuff.
Yep, great stuff. Zach, anything else you want to get to with secondaries before we get out of here?
No, I think this is. I think we did this very well.
Very good. Very good. We apologize. We weren't able to do this live. I know it says live, but this is really more of a premiere than live. It just helps with the distribution of the channel to do this live, and StreamYard allows us to do that. So we appreciate you watching so much. We will be back. Well, I'll be back Tuesday night. Zach will not be with us on Tuesday. He will be at a retreat with the boys and having a good time there. So we'll see Zach next Sunday. Zach, any parting words before we see you next Sunday?
No, I will be happy to not be on suspension anymore after next week. So,
You're
although
paying your fine with community service by going and hanging out
they,
at the boys' camp, right?
yeah, that's
Serving at the
how
boys'
it
camp.
goes.
There you go.
Yep.
Oh, very good. We appreciate all of you being here, watching, listening. If you're on podcast, remember 5-star review really helps us out. If you're on YouTube, remember please do like, subscribe, do all that stuff helps us out, and we just greatly appreciate it. So everybody, have a good one. We'll see you next time.